Is Disneyland worth the price? Is it worth going? It's interesting. This is a question that happened to me over the last week or about the last 2 weeks. My name is Matt with Highline Financial Coaching, and today I want to talk to you about Disneyland. And from a financial perspective, is it worth the price that you have to pay? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the last week that we had. So we took a family trip down to California to Disneyland, and it was one of those crazy experiences. We got our family in a couple cars, drove down to California, and went on that crazy Disneyland vacation. So today we're going to look at the benefit, the pros and cons financially for this vacation, and is it worth it? When it comes to calculating the cost of a Disney trip, the first thing that you got to think of is the admission price. How much is it to get into Disneyland? So when we were there, we've gone there a couple times over the last 10 years, and I was blown away this time. We went in the off season, and the prices were crazy expensive. So on a Thursday, the price was $130 per person per ticket. And of course, they consider anybody over like 9 years old an adult at Disneyland. It's amazing. They consider everything an adult when you're trying to get into those parks. So the minimum price was $130. And the maximum price was $180 for a weekend price. So if you went on Thursday, it was a little bit cheaper. Actually, there was a $50 swing in the price based on which day of the week you went. The cheapest that I saw at the lowest point was like $110. So anywhere from $110 to $180. Now, if you want to do a park hopper ticket, which means you get into both the parks on the same day, you can pretty much tack on another $50 to any ticket that you bought. Also, to get to park at Disneyland, they don't just throw that in. Parking is an additional $35 per vehicle to get in there. So you can add all of those costs up, and depending on the price of your family or the amount of people you're going in to Disneyland with, that will vary. Now, once you buy the ticket, they ask you if you want a lightning pass. Now, a lightning pass is a pass that will get you, well, supposedly get you to the front of the line. The one thing that they don't tell you about is that only works on one ride at a time. If you've waited 2 hours, you can put another ride on there as well. So it's not like you can run from ride to ride to ride and get all the way to the front of the line. And you have to make sure there's a time slot available. So we went to do the Lightning Pass, and it just didn't validate the pain of doing it. So the good thing is when we went, it was a less busy time. So the lines weren't ridiculously long. I think the longest we waited in a line was about an hour, and that was for their top ride. So I couldn't complain too much because we actually were able to get on most of the rides. Space Mountain is one that I remember, and it was a 3-hour wait. Last time we were there, this time I think we waited for 40 minutes, which was pretty reasonable for some of the top rides there. Now, when you get into the park, now this first part that we're talking about is just the costs. Just the expenses that it was getting into the park. When you get into the park, there's always the food. And the food is incredible. The food is so good, and they make everything smell really good so that you'll buy it. A buddy of mine told me that I needed to get it was a garlic pretzel brat, and it was over by the Matterhorn, and it was really good. I had to admit, I was a little skeptical buying it at $15 a pop, but it was pretty good. And so if you figure you're spending that money because of the attractions you're at, that one was good. And all the food, you can plan on spending quite a bit of money on the food and any of the souvenirs. Two of my boys had gotten lightsabers in the past, so my third son wanted one, and so we did go through the process of doing that. And a lightsaber there is, what was it, about $235 to build one. and that price has gone up since the last time we did it with our other boys. So luckily he is paying for a chunk of that, so that he appreciates it more, because we don't want that broke. So again, you can see that the costs get really, really expensive going there, depending on if you fly, if you drive. We live in Utah, so the drive wasn't that bad. It's a 9-hour drive nonstop, so it's about 10 or 11 hours with the stops needed to get there. And then you have your hotel and lodging. So we had paid for a hotel package months before, and so we had split that cost up, and it made it a little more reasonable. But you can plan on spending quite a bit of money when you go to Disneyland. So now that you've heard all the costs, the prices, the expenses for it, I can tell you when we went into the park. I am the finance guy, so I was pretty frustrated with the prices and how much it was getting in there. But I can tell you, by the end of the day, for our family, it did validate the pain. The price that it cost. It was an incredible trip for the family of all ages. We have from 11 years old up to 21 years old. We also took my son's girlfriend with us, so we had a new dynamic with our family, and it was a great place for everybody to get along, laugh. I don't think my kids have gotten along that well for a very long time. So for us, yes, it was worth the price of taking the family to Disneyland, and we will probably do it again in the near future. Now, we did Disneyland one day, and then we also did Universal Studios, and my youngest daughter really enjoyed Universal. Universal was a little less expensive than Disneyland, so if you're trying to do a budget, we did one day Disneyland, one day Universal. We did the beach. There's also some other parks there that are less expensive, so you can spread that cost out. If you buy 4 or 5 day passes, it decreases the per day price, but at the same time, we've noticed that we didn't need that many days in the park. We start getting bored after a little while, so we like to do other things while we're in that area. So like I said, for us, it was definitely worth the trip. There are a lot of other places that you can go that are less expensive for families. We had a total of 7 of us that went, and like I said, they do an incredible job there to make everybody excited, happy, and they do an incredible job to get you to spend money and try not to feel bad about it. So when you go down there, just make sure you budget correctly. And one of the things I've seen people do is save for it for a year. One of the things we did a couple of years ago with our kids is we went to Disney World, and our kids saved up for 6 months for the trip. And so they actually paid for the airfare for us to get there, and they paid for the souvenirs once we got there. And that made it more enjoyable for them. And I can tell you those souvenirs that they earned are still in their rooms. So they took care of them a lot better than if we would have done that for them. So hopefully that helps. Again, it depends what type of situation you're in, if this is worth it or not. If it's something that's going to get your family closer together and it's a good vacation that everybody likes, it may be worth the money. If not, if it's just a quick trip down there, you may drop thousands of dollars and may not enjoy it. So it also determines the time of year. We went at a pretty good time, and lines were shorter. It made it more enjoyable. If you have to stand in a line for 3 hours, it really ruins the fun of being there. So again, drop in the comments your experience at Disneyland, pros and cons. Would love to hear from you. This is Matt with Highline Financial Coaching. I hope you all have a great day.